right, so what do you need to know about severe weather? Well, when we're doing severe weather here, fix the camera, you can actually see me over here, okay? We are going to be talking about not only the types of weather, but then you will also be responsible for knowing how they form, how deadly they are, and one of the number one things you're going to have to be responsible for is knowing what to do in case of that storm. So what's your evac plan? What is your plan in case if you hear a tornado is coming towards you? What do you do? Okay? All right, so let's talk about severe weather. Right? So severe weather is considered to be a mid-latitude cyclone. So they're going to happen between 23.5 and 66.5 degrees. All right. If they are a cyclone is the nickname for a low pressure system. Okay. And they're usually going to form from occluded fronts. Now you have to remember, an occluded front is the one where you have both a warm front and a cold front together moving in the same direction. It's where that cold front is moving quicker than the warm front and actually kind of collides with it. Okay, so these are low pressure systems, so they're going to form cyclones in some way, shape, or form. Some of those cyclones you can see in person. Some of those cyclones are going to be happening inside of the cloud. Okay? Now this is all about death, destruction, and despair. Okay? Sometimes it's more severe than others. That find you good? Okay. Let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about thunderstorms. Thunderstorms we've all been in before, whether you're inside or outside of dwelling, right? Whether you're inside the house or outside the house, you've all been inside of a thunderstorm before. We've all seen them, yes? Okay. Now, just like I said yesterday, they're going to be associated with those cumulonimbus clouds, those storm clouds, those fun clouds, right? Now, what's going to happen is there's going to be an uplift of warm air that happens inside the cloud. Right? And I'm going to show you a video clip on how thunderstorms actually form. Okay? Now remember, you should take notes on the video clip because it's going to go into details on how they form. Okay? Before I show you the video clip, that's a cumulonimbus cloud in real life, probably taken from a plane. Okay? You see how it is darker in the middle? That's because it's reached its point of saturation. That means no more moisture can be held, and if they try, that's where we get the precipitation. Okay? So let's look at how they form. See how loud this is going to be. Fantastic.
Did you know that the average adult has 5 to 20 pounds of toxic poop in their body?
That's fantastic.
Go away. Welcome to season 2 of Weather-Wise, where we'll be looking at severe weather, starting with thunderstorms, exactly how they form, and what kind of extremes they can grow to. How does a puffy white cumulus cloud turn into an immense, towering cumulonimbus that can deliver powerful winds, dousing rainfall, and even hail and tornadoes? To answer this question, let's isolate one warm, humid blob of air like this one, and watch what happens as it rises. As long as the blob is warmer than its surroundings, it rises, expands due to the lower pressure, and cools due to that expansion until it reaches the same temperature as the air around it. If the blob's temperature drops to the dew point, water vapor will condense out of it, and a cloud will form. And this condensation begins a cycle that drives the growth of the cloud. This is because when water vapor condenses, it releases heat. Thus, as soon as the cloud forms, the condensation gives the blob back some of the heat it lost due to expansion. And because the warmer air holds more moisture, the blob recovers some of the water vapor it lost as well. When all that is done, the blob is still warmer than its surroundings, so it rises, and the whole thing starts all over again. Expansion and cooling, condensation, recovery of heat and water vapor, and it rises again. And this keeps happening over and over and over until the blob runs out of water vapor. So when it's hot and sticky out, the abundant heat gives a blob of air a strong impulse to rise, and the humidity provides a lot of water vapor to drive the growth of the clouds. Without anything to stop the process, this can produce clouds that can climb all the way to the stratosphere. Now, expand all of this out, and we see that it's not just one blob of air rising to make the cloud, but an ever-flowing conveyor of them, drawing a constant supply of warm, humid air up into the developing cloud in the form of powerful winds known as updrafts. When rain starts to fall from the cloud, this produces downdrafts, and the storm can persist for some time like this, especially if strong upper-level winds cause the cloud to become tilted, which separates the updrafts and downdrafts enough that they won't cancel each other out. It's at this point, during the storm's mature phase, that we'll see abundant lightning and the possibility of hail and even tornadoes. Thunderstorms come in a variety of shapes and sizes. They can end up looking like big clumps of cauliflower as they run out of moisture before they reach the top of the troposphere. If they do reach the stratosphere, they tend to spread outward, forming that characteristic flat anvil-shaped top of a cumulonimbus cloud. They can occur individually, they can cluster together or form up into squall lines. Given enough heat and humidity, they can grow into immense rotating supercells. And then there's the notorious mesoscale convective complexes, squall lines that can form one day, persist late into the night with heavy rain, hail, and possibly tornadoes before dying down by morning, and then kick up again into another line of powerful thunderstorms by afternoon. Larger thunderstorms are even capable of producing such strong gusts of wind flowing out from underneath them that these gusts can form squall lines of their own, and these are known as derechains. Now that we know all about thunderstorms, come back in episode 2, where we'll dive deeper in and talk about lightning, what that is, how it happens, and even some hints about what may cause it, as we all become a bit more weather-wise. Now, storm formation can grind to a halt with just one simple addition to the whole scenario: a layer of warm air higher up above the ground. The typical temperature profile of the atmosphere is that it gets cooler the higher you go. Meteorologists call the presence of this warm layer a temperature inversion. Above the inversion, the normal temperature profile takes over. Forecasters and storm chasers often refer to this as the air mass being capped. This cap is most commonly associated with warm air riding up over cooler, denser air, such as near a warm front. Or if there's a warm, stagnant air mass stuck over a region, the air closest to the ground will cool overnight, but this cooling may not reach the air higher up before sunrise. As rising air reaches the cap, more and more warm, humid air parcels become trapped by this cap, blocked from reaching the cooler air above it. This causes a buildup of instability across this warm layer, and a buildup of frustration for storm chasers, because this entire scenario will prevent storms from developing. However, if conditions can break the cap, either the air beneath it warms up enough to cancel out the inversion, or some particularly strong convection bursts past it, the sudden upward rush of warm, humid air causes explosive cloud development, and a sudden rush of storm chasers to their vehicles, as this often results in severe thunderstorms.
Okay, why do we have another ad? All right, so that's basically how thunderstorms are going to happen, because you have to have that cumulonimbus cloud, right? So, right, there's the cloud. So What's happening inside, what he said was that there's that updraft and downdraft at the same time. And they are not basically overlapping with each other as the winds go up and the rain comes down, or the precipitation comes down. Okay? When you are looking at thunderstorms, okay, they do have usually lightning associated with it. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually go home and create your own lightning, quote unquote. Static electricity is just another form of lightning, but it is not as crazy, it is not as life-threatening as lightning would be. Now, one of the things I said you guys need to know is what to do in case of a thunderstorm. Well, in order to defeat a thunderstorm or to stay safe during a thunderstorm, you move inside. You do not stand under trees, because if lightning strikes the tree, it could break off a branch and kill you. Okay? If you are in an open field like this is, okay, you should lay flat and make yourself as flat as possible. You do not want to be, why is nobody writing these things down, seeing as it is part of the unit? Okay? You want to lay as flat as possible. You do not want to run around outside swinging a golf club if you are the tallest person there, because that is attracting that electricity to the golf club, which can then create a lightning rod inside of you. Okay? A lightning rod, which most farms have at this point, which I do not believe, I think that piece of lightning is actually hitting the telephone pole there. Usually in open fields like this, you'll see a large metal rod. And the reason for it is it's specifically to attract the lightning so it doesn't hit anything else, right? These metal silos are usually where you keep your produce, your grain, whatever it is that you're producing. Now, let's say you had corn in there and all of a sudden lightning strikes it. You're going to have a big silo of popcorn. Not what you wanted, okay? So they put these lightning rods there so to actually force the attraction of the lightning and have it completely grounded. If for some reason you're driving and your car gets struck by lightning, or a wire falls on your car, the last thing you want to do is try to step out, because you're safe in your car until you complete the circuit by stepping out. Okay? You call 911, you hit that OnStar button, whatever it is, they come and tell you what to do. If for some reason you see that your car is then on fire, what you have to do is open the door and jump with 2 feet out. Okay? That way you don't create a circuit by jumping out as far as humanly possible. But of course, if you can save your car away for the authorities, do that instead. Okay? Let's talk about our second type, tornadoes. Okay? Tornadoes are the fastest, most dangerous storm. The reason they're the most dangerous is because they are nearly unpredictable. Okay? And I say they are nearly unpredictable because the typical person will not be able to say, okay, there's definitely a tornado coming. Now, if you're outside and it's a nice warm day and then all of a sudden you feel a cool breeze come through, more than likely some sort of storm is going to actually happen. Okay? Up here, we don't really have tornadoes as much. We have had, in my whole life, I had never even heard of a tornado touching down in New York until about 12 years ago when I started here. Okay? That was the first time I had ever heard of a tornado touching down in New York. Okay? It was so bad, it actually touched down right back there. Before you get to 188th Street, the apartment center right there, there's a big open area. It touched down right there. Okay? And the people who lived there, Mr. Gonzalez used to live there, and he said, he goes, I saw it coming at my window, so I shut the window, and all of a sudden you heard it hit the side. It wasn't a crazy storm in that it created a ridiculous amount of damage. It did knock down some trees, it did knock down some tree branches, I don't believe that they lost power, but we closed school the next day. And the reason we closed school the next day is because it's the same reason why you don't see any trees right up against the side of the school anymore. Because I believe it was East Bottom. Mr. McLaughlin would know better than I would, but I believe it was East Bottom. One of the trees fell in and the branch came through the glass was everywhere, knocked out power, so we had to close. Okay? That is the only time that I've ever seen any New York schools closed for a tornado because we've never really had them before. Okay? They are often associated with those thunderstorms that we were just talking about. Right? Now, what happens? Well, you have that air mass, like a warm air mass happening. Then all of a sudden, an extremely cold air mass comes in. So you need to have extreme temperature differences between the hot air and the cold air in order for this to happen. Okay? Sometimes you can actually see it forming or the possibility of it forming if you just happen to be looking at the right place at the right time. Okay? You'll actually see it. It looks like the cloud is starting to turn, and there's just like wisps of cloud, and then all of a sudden, boom, it comes down. Okay? That's why they're so dangerous, because they happen so quickly. Okay? This is what's known as the enhanced Fujita scale. The EF scale you guys are responsible for knowing. Not only does it give you how fast the winds are moving, but it's really based on the damage that is being caused by the storm. Okay? So the more damage it is, or the more damage that it occurs, the higher up it will be. So this also, something about tornadoes, how big the tornado is does not mean necessarily it's going to be higher up on the EF scale. Okay? Just because it's a mile wide does not mean that it's automatically an EF5. EF5s are some of the, first of all, they're the most destructive, but they're also the less likely to happen. Okay? Here's a picture of a tornado and some storm chasers. That last video that you saw were storm chasers in their cars. And I just realized it this morning. If you look really closely at the bumper of this guy's truck, he's got a bumper sticker that says "Chase Life" with a tornado in the middle. Okay? Storm chasers are the craziest people. The reason I say they're the craziest people is, one, they're adrenaline junkies usually, and two, they're scientists. Of course they're crazy. Okay? No, that's me too, so I understand. All right? What they do is they actually want to find out more about these tornadoes, because we don't know a lot because they come and go so quickly. Okay? They want to know the scientific facts. What's happening inside the tornado? Can we predict them easier? Is there a way for us to keep people safe? Okay? This is just some of pictures of what actually happens. Okay? So what's happening inside the cloud? Well, first you have some sort of thunderstorm, right? Then you have some wind underneath it that's also starting to create a cyclone of some sort. Okay? As you get that spinning air, it gets caught in the updraft, which pulls it up, and because of that updraft, that tornado will actually be created. Now, it's not officially a tornado until it touches down. Okay? So here is the destruction it can cause. Notice the buildings that are still there. The buildings like the school up in the top left-hand corner here where the school buses are. Okay? Napa Auto Parts, right? And part of the church in this town are the only buildings that are still there. Why? Because they're the only buildings that were made out of brick or metal or stucco, technically. Okay? So those are things that, depending on how large the storm is, right, that are going to change it. Now, this is Tornado Alley. Tornado Alley, you guys are responsible for knowing what states are within Tornado Alley. You don't see as much in South Dakota and Minnesota, but you see a ton of tornadoes in Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas and Iowa. Okay, why? Because they're in the middle of the country. They are literally the middle of the country. They are in the direct path of cool, dry air coming down from Canada and warm air, both dry and moist, coming up from Mexico and the Gulf. It's the perfect conditions. Okay? So, on Monday, we are going to watch the video on tornadoes. I want you guys to actually be able to see what's happening and see the damage that can be caused based on that EF rating.